Hey everybody, it's the Aries1999 coming back at you in another video. In today's video, we are talking about Pokemon. Well, it seems that I have my videos out of order. Hey, speaking of out of order, let's talk about alternative ways to do battle order. So, as I'm sure you all know, turn order is normally decided by every creature at the beginning of the encounter rolling a d20 and adding his or her, or I suppose its, dexterity modifier. Now, I think the system works great, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be fun to at least explore other options. First is roll redistribution initiative. For this, everyone rolls initiative like normal, but on the first round, the party can trade around who has what initiative score. This could be useful if, say, the party wanted to make sure the bard went first to drop some buffs. So if you like the idea of the players getting some control of their turn order in relation to the other players, this could work. Secondly is team initiative. This is based off of the system that was used in the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons. For this, the parties involved each make collective initiative rolls so that all of one team goes before the other. Each party's roll could be boosted based on factors like who has the high ground, who has the smaller party, and stuff like that. Then the players decide what they are going to do, and that would determine the order that they would go in. For example, if the ranger is going to fire an arrow she already has loaded, then it makes sense for her to go before the paladin that has to charge across the battlefield to swing his sword. And you as the DM can give certain points to certain actions, or just let everything be contextual. This method is good if you want to reinforce the feeling of team versus team play. And it is also useful when dealing with larger battles, that way you don't need to track the initiative of a dozen different creatures. Then there is status initiative. This is more of the system that you would see in a turn-based video game. Every creature's initiative order is equal to that creature's dexterity score. This way, the fastest creatures go first. In the event of a tie, roll a d2. This method takes some of the randomness out of a battle. So if your game style is more geared towards using the dice very little and relying on the direct stats of the characters, this may be right for you. Next, we have the opposite of that, roulette initiative. Everyone rolls a d100. I don't really know what this would be useful for, but I wanted to provide a counter to the dexterity stat method. I guess it would greatly decrease the chances of initiative scores being tied. Then we have declaratory initiative. This is a system that I learned from Matthew Colville, who learned it from a Redditor, who learned it from someone named Mike Mearls. For this, everyone declares what type of action they are going to make ahead of time, kind of like in the team method. The action then determines what die is used to roll initiative, such as a d4 for a ranged attack or a d12 for a spell. The idea behind this is that certain actions just take longer than others. It also makes the players determine ahead of time what they might want to do. They don't have to commit to a specific action, just a type of action. So if you want your players to plan out their moves more, this may be the right system for you. Then we have class initiative. This is a type that I came up with based off of declaratory initiative. For this, everyone rolls their primary hit die. The thinking here is that an axe-swinging barbarian would probably be able to do some damage before a calm wizard who is casting a spell. And I say primary hit die in the case of multiclassing, because even if a character has evenly distributed all of her levels, one of the classes involved is still going to be dominant. So if you want to put more emphasis on class choice, then this may be right for you. Next up, we have Speed Factor Initiative, straight from the Dungeon Master's Guide. With this method, initiative is re-rolled each round, and creatures have to declare their actions ahead of time, like in the declaratory system. Different actions have different modifiers, and larger creatures have priority. If you like the thought of flexible turn orders, this one may be right for you. Now, let's take that a step further with turn-by-turn initiative. This is inspired by the speed factor method, but it's a little more chaotic. With this system, initiative is rolled each turn. Yes, turn, not round. After the fastest creature goes, each creature that has not yet gone that round re-rolls their initiative, and so on and so forth until everyone's had a turn. This makes battle more hectic, but it also puts the players on edge. It would force them to be more careful. As the DMG pointed out for the speed factor method, if the fighter knows that the cleric is going up next, then she can attempt a risky maneuver. This method is not recommended for large encounters, but it could still be a lot of fun. If you want to make battle more wild, then this may be right for you. Next is Dueling initiative. In this, the players roll their initiatives as normal, but then they choose a creature or a group of creatures. They each take turns fighting in their blocks of players versus opponents. This is more like something you would see in a movie, where each creature pairs against their foil. If you are doing a combat-heavy game and want to give each player their moment in battle, then this may work for you.
Eat laser, Silverman!
That gives me a 5 points weapon skills advantage! You lose an arm!
Lastly, we have Open initiative. This method was inspired by Monster of the Week. In that game system, there isn't really a set initiative, but rather each player goes when they have an idea for what to do next, and the DM responds with his creatures when appropriate. This is how most of D&D works when you think about it, and it relies on the players to not step over each other. For example, perhaps the wizard wants to make some cloud cover and blast a hole in the wall, and that gives the rogue an opportunity to jump through said hole to attack the monster, and then the monster would of course probably respond by attacking the rogue. So if you want your game to flow more easily going in and out of combat, then this system could work. So there you go, 10 different ways to change up the initiative system for Dungeons & Dragons. Do you have any ideas for initiative change or other house rules? Let me know down in the comments. Speaking of going quickly, if you want to know what is the highest possible movement speed in D&D, I have a video for that. I also run an actual play 5e podcast called Enter the Dungeon, a brotherly Pudcast. Links for that in the description. You can follow me on Twitter at TAries1999. And, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you next time. Have a great day, and God bless.